Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima. I want to talk to you for a little bit about Ace Combat Zero. Wasn't planning for this to be the video, but honestly, time constraints, budget constraints, and the fact that people actually seem to like the Ace Combat 3 and Ace Combat 6 videos means, you know what, why not? Let's actually have a look at the other Ace Combat game I haven't played, notably part of the Golden Trilogy. However, I gotta tell you, this one just isn't one of my favorites, and I finished it inside of one day, but the honest thing about it is that even with, like, some of the parts that I liked and some of the parts that I don't, outside of, like, the music, which I'd already heard before, I barely remember anything about Ace Combat Zero, and I just played it yesterday. I finished the entire game yesterday, and I can barely remember some of the most important bits of it, so yeah, good luck to me trying to do this video, I suppose. But anyway, this is another game in the Ace Combat series. The last one they released on PlayStation 2 before they went on to Ace Combat 6, which is kind of turning into one of my favorites, actually. A few people are saying that they think it's their favorite on the other video, and I have to say I agree. But Ace Combat Zero takes place a fair bit before Ace Combat 5, and it has a lot of older stuff, but at the same time it still has a lot of relatively newer planes in it as well. And it's a very linear game, just like Ace Combat 4, but it does have a few little neat tricks up its sleeve. For example, it has this system where you need to not shoot at things that have been basically just knocked out of the fight but not entirely destroyed. I like the idea on the surface, and people will comment on, say, whether or not you've been killing people unnecessarily or whether you've been leaving as much stuff alive as humanly possible, and it's kind of a nice touch. However, I will admit to not being a fan of the fact that it kind of screws with the way Ace Combat handles targeting, because, man, if you're trying to go for a full-on night run, which is leaving alone as much stuff as humanly possible, yeah, good luck with that, because when you press the button to target something, it'll usually target something that you probably don't want to shoot, and there's no way to avoid that. And it's really, really bloody annoying when you've got this huge spread of targets. Most of them are yellow, which means don't shoot them, and some of them are green, and you have to be hammering away at the triangle button constantly, despite the fact that you're looking directly at what you want to target, but it just won't target it. Simultaneously, you'll be trying to, like, take advantage of the fact that it won't target what's directly in front of you, and you'll be looking away from what you want to target, and it'll target something that's 15,000 meters away through 3 mountains and an enemy squadron. And it's like, what the hell? What is up with the targeting in this one? I genuinely don't understand what's going on. And it makes the game a bit more of a pain in the ass to play than you might actually expect. And honestly, I'm not sure what the problem is with it. I didn't have this problem in 6, 5, 4, even 3. So I couldn't tell you what it is. Maybe they tried to make some changes related to how you're meant to do the, how you're meant to do the targeting in this one related to the yellow objects. And it just came out really badly and no one noticed until the game was pressed and ready to ship. Got nothing for you on that one, man. I got no idea. But anyway, the game is very linear. It's also got very little in the way of side content. Ace Combat 4, I understand. Ace Combat 5 had that full-on arcade mode, which was a really nice bonus. Ace Combat 6 had playable multiplayer and that downloadable difficulty, Ace of Aces. Zero has like one bonus mission you can unlock at the end of the game. And that's it. And I don't even remember if I've even played that at this... Actually, no, I do remember. I'll get to why I haven't played it shortly. So, the main campaign is mainly linear. However, this is actually the game that introduced the whole operations system I liked in Ace Combat 6, where you would pick between one of 3 areas of operation. Operation. I don't even know what the hell my voice was doing to me there. You pick between 3 operations, you spawn in, you go do it, and then the mission ends. So it does give you like a little bit of variety when you're coming back to a mission, but admittedly, I really miss it in Ace Combat 6. How most of the missions were these operations, and how it felt so much bigger. In this, it doesn't even spawn like the allied units, you don't have to go help anyone out or anything like that. It's just, you do this as the mission and that's it. And it always ends up feeling really compact. That's one thing I've noticed about Ace Combat 0 that I really didn't notice even about something like Ace Combat 5. It just feels small. It feels like a really small engagement. There's usually very little going on in the way of enemy contact. There's only a couple of missions I would describe as notably enjoyable due to the amount of dudes that are in it. One of them is the second one that takes place in, I can't remember the exact name, it was something like B347, although I know that's not the name of it. Basically, it's a gigantic aerial fluff ball, they call it something else in the military, where it's just your planes versus their planes, and there's like 20 planes up in the air. That's the only mission I could say I truly enjoyed, and that's usually not a good sign. The rest were just kind of iffy, whether it be tracing a river to take out a bunch of enemy dudes along it, whether it be attacking like a base and just taking out all the troops on the ground and feeling like there's very little threat. Admittedly, my least favorite part of the game is actually the last 3 missions. They force you to take the same plane for all 3 missions, which sucks because you don't get an opportunity to change up your special weapons, and one is very focused on ground targets, one is very focused on air targets, and then for the last one you actually want like proper air versus air weaponry. So one of those, or at least one of those missions is going to suck for you no matter what you do, right? And then the 3 missions end up being a bit of a pain. Just one really long aerial dogfight, then a sort of Top Gun Maverick-esque canyon run, where you still have to go through a second half of the mission, which is annoyingly precise, and it's kind of why I like Ace Combat 6 and its mid-mission checkpoints going on there. And then the final mission is the final boss, which I genuinely kind of hated. It's nowhere near as hard as something like Project Wingman, for example. That one really stuck with me as being a massive pain in the ass. The final boss of this game, which I'm not going to say because spoilers, is just annoying. I got to the final phase of the boss 4 times, and then the boss just like, nah, you're dead now. And there's a very specific way you're meant to handle the boss, and I tried to get the boss to go along with me on this one, mainly that you have to fly away from him and then encourage a head-on-head duel, and I couldn't get him to go for the head-on-head duel. Like, no matter how much I tried, I just could not make it work. And then when I eventually gave up on it after dying in the 3rd phase, the 5th damn time, and I went online and I just saw this guy just do it, like the AI just cooperated with him perfectly, I genuinely got mad. Because I put in so much effort trying to take this bastard out, and this guy just makes the AI comply with him like it's nobody's business. It's such a pain in the ass, if I'm being honest with you. Now, there are a couple of set-piece missions in this game which are good fun. As I said, the massive in-air, like, fluff ball, fur ball, whatever they call it, that was fun. The ones that go off into their own operations are kind of neat in that at least you get the little bit of variety there. But just the overall campaign is just middling. Like, I like Ace Combat 6 better. I like Ace Combat 4 better. I like 5 better. I like 3 better. In fact, the only one I could say I like less than this is like one of the PSP ones from way back in the day. Just because it isn't working for me. The missions aren't working for me. The AI aggressiveness is too low. I played through the entire bloody game on hard, and like 50% of my deaths that weren't like on the annoyingly precise second to final mission or the final boss were all crashing into the ground because I was still getting used to the flight physics. I just did not get along with this one, the way that its missions were constructed or anything like that. And as a result, it's just kind of hard to recommend as an Ace Combat game. They even, like, give you, like, takeoff. And the first takeoff mission I tried to do, I failed because I ran out of time. I didn't even know that was possible. Like, I was holding the throttle button and I was just going straight forward waiting for it to say, okay, you've done it. But 3 minutes in, it just was just like, nah, you're done, try it again. So I just hit start and skipped it from then on. And there's one mid-air refueling. It's very odd. It's incredibly odd, actually. So, it does at least look good. I am playing this on PCSX2, and it's got a lot of the tricks turned on. outside of some of the FMVs being a bit higher than they should be, it's absolutely fine. And the models, the environmental detail, and the enemies themselves are all good looking for the PlayStation 2. But the fact that there's just so little going on, even in comparison to Ace Combat 4, makes it, again, just a bit disappointing. I don't know if they just didn't have the CPU and GPU grunt to have more dudes on screen at once or what. But, it just doesn't work for me. I did get a kick out of the soundtrack, though. Good God, the soundtrack in this game is good. It's probably its only saving grace. Like, good Lord, when they kick in some of the soundtrack in this game, it just fits perfectly. I don't know who had this idea, but damn, I don't even know how to describe it. You know it when you hear what they're going for here, and the music is so good. It is so good. And I do appreciate a couple of the little tweaks they've made here and there, like how when a elite enemy unit shows up, it gets its own like little plaque on the screen, and just other little minor things like that. But yeah, overall, just gameplay just didn't really work with me on this one. There is also the story, but it's a bit more of a, whatchamacallit. It's like Ace Combat 4, where a lot of it is hands-off. Some of it is, it's all related to you as a character. The entire of the story is basically placed in the shadow of a documentary maker who just goes around asking people about this one mercenary that just showed up for a few months and then disappeared. And it works just as a general concept. You do get an idea of what's going on and what you're doing. But still, considering none of them are really related to you as a character, and the majority of them only really show up, like, you don't get to hear a lot of the internal thoughts of the people you're going up against during the story, so it kind of leaves just the outside world that's happening at the time in a little bit of a fog. The major events will get commentated on, but it's usually by the guy who's like 10 years removed from the conflict, and so it ends up being a lot less interesting as a result. And then, like, the majority of the enemy aces that you fight, they all come back at the very end, and you get to hear from them then and what their opinions were on the fight at the time. And it feels like too little too late, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. So, again, it just doesn't work for me. It feels very odd to say that, but it doesn't work. It doesn't give me an idea of what's going on in the war around me, and you kind of have to rely on the mid-mission dialogue for that. At the very least, you get a couple of interesting partners to take along with you, but they swap out from time to time. And so you end up in this situation where you don't get to know all of them that well. And as a result, I just like Shamrock better. Just because you get more time with him. You get more time to empathize with him as a character. And as a result, when he goes through his character arc, you feel bad for the lovable dork. So, yeah. Hey, Ace Combat 0, just missile shot trashed, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. If you were to play any Ace Combat game, I'd tell you to avoid this one. Even Ace Combat 7 is better. Even though Ace Combat 7 has that massive missile, 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 etc. I still need to give that game another try, though. It's entirely possible that because I found this game too easy, it's entirely possible that I've just been getting good at these games. Which sounds like an incredible stretch, but I don't know. Maybe I need to go get the PC version and see what I can get done. With that said, this has been Blue Maxima. I'll let you watch a couple more missions. I'll see you all next time.
Follow me.
Golem 1, take out the reinforcements.
Hawk 2!
Missile launched.
Phantom jets. It's the Silver Eagle. They really did come back. Boss, bail out!
The bandits are out of formation. Now's your chance. Golem 1, missile evaded.
Watch out, the enemy's tracking you on radar. I missed.
Missile evaded.
Watch out, the enemy's tracking you on radar.
Approaching gun range.
Golem 2, Hawk 2.
Radar lock.
Watch out, the enemy's locked onto you.
Golem 1, missile launched. Locked on.
Watch out, the enemy's locked onto you.
Missile evaded.
Damn it, it didn't hit.
Locked on. Warning, the enemy's locked onto you. Target hit.
Hawk 2. He's fighting clean. I'll show him he's only digging his own grave. Another aircraft? Push on it down. Demon of Lucio. So that pilot is the Demon Lord? Be on the lookout for going to higher altitude. Damn it!
Golem 1, missile evaded. Missile hit.
Damn it, it didn't hit. I missed. Watch out, the enemy's tracking you on radar.
Fox 2, Fox 2. Missed.
Go to Fox 2.
Radar lock.
Yeah, Cypher just bagged a bandit. The Demon born of the Round Table.
All targets within combat airspace are down. Operation complete.
Yo, buddy, you still alive?
We were victorious in the B-7R engagement. The round table is finally toppled. According to our reports, the pilot in the F-4E that you engaged was an Academy-trained ace. It won't be long now before we win this war.
My pulse raced at the astounding accomplishments of the mercenary known as Demon Lord. I forgot about my job and read everything I had on hand. Around the time Demon Lord received his nickname, South Belka showed signs of weariness regarding the war. Because the region was set up as a defense line to protect the birthplace of Belka in the north, the people's dissatisfaction had reached a climax. The cities declared themselves demilitarized and peacefully surrendered to the Allied forces. Unable to establish a defensive position, the Belkan army kept retreating to the north. The end of the war was fast approaching. I was given an opportunity to interview the former aces of the Belkan Air Force. Back then, they were the masters of the sky, and they had also known him. So I crossed the border to follow his trail. I wanted to capture the war and the Demon Lord from their point of view, to capture the voices of those who were there. Indigo Team Commander, former member of the Belkan Air Force, 7th Air Division, 51st Tactical Fighter Squadron, Dmitri Heinrich, an ace whose precision and grace in flying earned him the title of Blue Heron. Today, he has his hands full with the family business.
Well, that day, right before I deployed, my airspace assignment was changed. Initially, my squadron was assigned to the stable Eastern Front. That was changed to Area B7R, the round table where casualties were recorded at a fearsome pace. It's also the place where I met him. It was just 2 planes, him and an Eagle. And yet our lead force didn't stand a chance against them. I could tell he was good, and it was going to be bad for us. But there was something else I noticed. He hesitated. A vulnerability that can be exploited. I was certain I would win. The pilot was still young. He had yet to master the rules of combat. But in the end, I was shot down.
Gelb Team is number 2, former member of the Belkan Air Force, 5th Air Division, 23rd Tactical Fighter Squadron, Rainer Altman. He flew the skies of Directus during the capital's liberation, and he's still there to this day.
I met him above this very sky. I can still hear the sound of the missile alerts from that day. I received an order to fly to Directus on my way back from an intercept mission on the southern defense line. The order itself wasn't unusual. We kept being deployed from one mission to the next without receiving even the basic maintenance. But the situation was the same all around. We were late reaching the operational space. The station squadrons had already retreated, and warning bells were going off in the city. And the people were looking up to his plane, high above the sky. I couldn't see any emotion in his maneuvers. I didn't feel like I was fighting against a human being. I wanted to end that battle as quickly as possible.
Silber Team Commander, former member of the Belkan Air Force, 51st Air Division, 126th Tactical Fighter Squadron, Dietrich Kellerman. He was once the top ace at Belka and a fiery instructor at the Air Force Academy. In 1995, the Belkan Air Force sent him to the front lines to bolster troop morale.
He was good. From what I'd heard about him, I thought he was still just a young mercenary. But he matured since then. He still wasn't perfect, but I could see he had come a long way towards understanding the rules of combat. What's important on the battlefield is to let go of hate, to survive, and to adhere to the rules you've set for yourself. These are the rules I've taught my students. And when I saw him, I could tell my time was done. A new generation had inherited the sky. There was no more need for an old soldier like me.
Every time I flew with him, his skill stood out. He was unstoppable. He was cool-headed and proud, a combat professional. Demon Lord fit him perfectly. Maybe the man was blessed by the goddess of war. Before long, everyone had taken notice of him. More and more would show up to watch him go off on sortie. Mercenaries or maintenance crew, it didn't matter. People wanted to burn his image to their memories. Hell, they weren't the only ones.
The Belkan forces are beginning to take flight. The industrial city of Hoffnung is crucial to the enemy's industrial strategy and the heart of its war productions. The Allied forces have decided that all Belkan war production must be stopped to expedite the end of the war, and has requested our participation in this operation. The operation will primarily involve the bombing of ground facilities by the Allied forces' bombers. Your mission is to support those bombers and attack enemy facilities. We have achieved near total air supremacy over the target area, but don't let your guard down. There may still be sporadic resistance.
Gone to all units. I've confirmed a burning city up ahead. That must mean the bombing started.
Cover the Allied bombers. Eliminate all ground and aerial threats.
Let's move.
To all bombers, remove Belka's ability to counterattack. Priority is placed on destruction over accuracy. Initiate bombing sequence. Drop them all.
Turn it to ashes. That's not enough. Drop more bombs. I thought they were on a precision bombing mission. They're just tossing bombs all over the place.
AA guns destroyed. Warning, the enemy's tracking you on radar. SAM destroyed.
We're surrounded by planes here. Headquarters, requesting orders.
Lock on.
We can't rely on air support anymore. We'll just have to do this ourselves.
This is PJ. Something strange is going on down there. The number of burning areas just suddenly increased.
Attention Allied fighters. Our tank unit's advancing to Sector 2. But some Belkan planes are giving us trouble. Take down those planes first.
A Tomahawk just hit the city. Are those guys serious? So this is the price we paid for losing.
Run down the entire city. Set fire to the buildings on your way out.
Someone's been pushing their way into Belkan territory.
Nobody knew why they were fighting anymore. All I felt at that point was sadness for the